And all right, so it is recording. Good, good, good. All right, can you see my WaitTech PowerPoint? All right, awesome. So we will go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Lori Wright, and I am the Small Business Center Assistant here for Entrepreneurship and the Small Business Center. And we have Mike on the line today. Some of you may have already attended a webinar with him, but we are processing through our series with Mike. So I'm going to go ahead and get started just to give you. Okay, let's try it again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, all right. I thought nothing is happening. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to give you a little information about myself and what we do here in the Entrepreneurship and Small Business Center. We are one of 58 small business centers across North Carolina, and the goal is to have an SBC in every county within North Carolina. So just like the Small Business Center here at Wake Tech, you can see these little pinpoints here is where there is another small business center. And not every small business center does the same thing. It just depends on the county and the different types of needs that county has. And so this is a little bit about how you can get to either the entrepreneurship side of the house and their programs, as well as the small business center side. And these are some of the free service, well, yeah, these are some of the free services that we offer. Everything we do here in the entrepreneurship and small business center is free. This is a small breakdown of our crew here. Todd Lighting is the director of the Small Business Center, and Rena is our federal business development specialist. She teaches and is currently teaching a series on how to obtain state and federal contracts. Dave is our everything launch. He is an instructor and he also coordinates all of the different launch municipality courses across Wake County. And then this is my lovely face. I do everything in the background. That's where I like to be. So this is some information about our Wake Tech Business Pitch Competition. And some of these dates and some of these classes you may have already attended. The first class here Is There a Market for My Idea? And we are today moving into doing projections and until the 17th, and then preparing for all types of pitches. Mike is going to teach that again on the 16th as well as the 18th. So if you have not already signed up for the third session here, plan to do so. You only have to attend one of these classes to be considered in the pitch to move forward into the pitch contest. And then the next step is to submit your 1 minute pitch video to us, and that date will be made readily available through our QR code. Everything you need to know about the pitch competition is here in this QR code. And yes, the recording will be made available. And yes, the slides will also be sent out to you as well. So make sure that you attend at least one of these sessions here to meet the requirement to submit your video. Just some other things that we are partnering with different different community partners around Wake County. This is an event with How to Do a Startup Showdown. This is sponsored by Wells Fargo. So Wells Fargo is really big on assisting small business owners in reference to startup and continued success. So if this is an opportunity you feel like you are ready for, please feel free to also get more information here in reference to competing for this $30,000. And again, this information will be sent out to everyone through email. So we partner with Truist, and they teach our webinars on borrowing for small business owners and entrepreneurships and how to understand the difference between personal finances as well as business finances. And this is a great class. We partner with Tammy Adams, and she has been with Truist for a very long time and is very knowledgeable in how to help you get prepared to borrow money for your small business. We also partner with other local community celebs, I like to say, and Chisa is going to be teaching a class on LinkedIn Local. And this just shows you how to get your LinkedIn page ready for prime time. And additional information is here on how to register with this QR code, how to register for this class. It is going to be at the Wright Village. This is just before you hit downtown on Wilmington Street. And again, you can click on the QR code. Sorry, you can take a picture or scan the QR code, and it will give you additional information about the time, the date, and how to register. This is just a snapshot of all of the different classes that we are offering throughout the month of February. And just as you did register for this class, you can do the same by registering for these additional classes as well. We do offer additional classes in Spanish, and we also have two counselors, excuse me, available now that are geared towards our Hispanic community and would prefer to utilize their native language. Maybe their English is not the best, but prefer to listen to and participate in our webinars and in-person seminars in Spanish. So feel free to let everyone know that we do have these classes, and we do have two counselors available as well for free. So we are powered by surveys. Every webinar or in-person seminar is going to have a survey attached. And this is how we know what you want to see, what you want us to deliver, the kind of content you're looking for. If you tell us what you want to see and you don't see it on our webpage already, the surveys are a great way to introduce that topic to us. So please feel free to complete the surveys once you complete one of our webinars or seminars. And I am so sorry, my phone is just going to keep ringing. And these are our socials. So you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn. The only social media that we are not on is TikTok, because the state is not allowed to utilize TikTok. And now I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to Mike.
Lori, I appreciate it. Good afternoon. Hopefully, everyone's having a phenomenal day. Welcome to part two of building your pitch. So, during part one, we discussed building the foundation of a business and the life cycle of a business, what it looks like from day one until exit, and then everything in between. During session two, we're going to focus on finances. Remember, we talked in session number one, a business's cash in, cash in and cash out. Cash is going to be queen. A business without finances or without money is a hobby, and I doubt anyone here is for a hobby. And then during session number three, we will build the pitch together, the presentation, give you some key takeaways on how to pitch and present, whether it be to a judge for a pitch competition, to an investor, to a lender, or potentially even a client as well. So Before I share my screen, let me tell you that we're not going to use any slides today. We are going to be building our financial model on a spreadsheet. I'm going to share a link into the chat, and a quick housekeeping note, I will have the chat open the entire time we're working together today. Feel free to drop any questions into the chat. I will be monitoring it, and I will attempt to answer, and the worst thing I'll say is I have no idea, and try to point you into the best possible direction. So the link that I just dropped into the chat is a link where you can get access to the financial model that we're going to work on together today. You don't have to use this model for your business. You might have access to accounting software already. That is okay. This is just, I'm sharing this with you in case you want to use this. There are many different accounting softwares. You might have a preference for which one you use. Your accountant might have a preference, but for today, we're going to build it on this spreadsheet. And if you want to use it for yourself, you can download them from this link. When you download the zip file, you'll see there's multiple spreadsheets. The one we are using is the advanced model. So I'm going to just type advanced into the chat so you know which one it is. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I get the chat back open. All right, outstanding. So I assume everyone can see my screen. Let's just do a quick check in the chat box. Type the number 1 in the chat if you could see my screen. Type the 1 in the chat if you could see my screen. Awesome. Good confirmation. And let's rock and roll. So as you see, let me first orient everyone to the spreadsheet. So when you download this spreadsheet, it's going to download as an Excel file. Whether you prefer Excel, Google Sheets, Apple's version of spreadsheets, or any other software, that's just fine. It should still upload just fine. I prefer to use Google Sheets, so I uploaded the Excel file into Google Sheets, and it will work just the same. So we've got the first tab here is the introduction, and I'll talk about what's on the introduction page shortly. Tab number 1, or the second tab in, is the startup funds. Tab number 2 is salaries and wages. Tab number 3 is going to be your fixed operating expenses. Tab number 4 is your projected sales forecast. We're going to hang out here for a hot minute. 5 is going to be cash receipts and disbursements. I'll briefly cover this, but we won't dive too much into tab 5 today. 6 is going to be your beginning balance sheet. Won't go too far into this today as well. Tab 7 will be income statement for year 1. 8 will be your cash flow statement for year 1. And then tab 9 will be your balance sheet for year 1. Before I go any further, you're going to start to see these replicate a little bit. And we talk to you about GAAP or GAAP. GAAP or GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, is the accounting standard for businesses in the United States. I'll say it again, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP, is going to be is GAAP. It's how we manage business finances in the US. It is the minimum standard. So that includes 3 primary documents. That would be your profit and loss statement. A profit and loss statement is also known as a P&L statement or an income statement. So income statement, P&L, or profit and loss, all the same thing, just 3 different names, is going to be financial statement number 1. Financial statement number 2 is going to be your cash flow statement for GAAP. And then financial statement number 3 is going to be your balance sheet. If you prefer to have financial KPIs and track different metrics beyond those 3 forms, that is just fine. I encourage that. But at a very minimum, you are responsible for having a profit and loss or an income statement, a cash flow statement, and a balance sheet. So you'll see that replicates. We have income statement for year 2, cash flow statement for year 2. We have a balance sheet for year 2, and the same thing for year 3. After year 3, we go into the 3-year summary, a break-even analysis, our amortization schedule, financial ratio analysis, and our diagnostics. So we'll cover each of these tabs individually, and I'll define each of these. So let's go back to the very first tab. We're going to go to introduction. Now, you might see 3 different years on here: year 1, year 2, year 3. An investor might ask you one day, well, what about your 7-year financials or your 5-year financials? Some lenders, some investors are going to ask you for 5 years, 6 years, or 7-year financials. I personally try to stay away from those who ask for financials more than 3 years out. So let's go back to 2006. In 2006, there was actually, let's go back to 2002. In 2002, there were very few people that knew that the market was going to collapse 7 years later. So because we don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now or 6 years from now, a 7 year financial model is going to, a projection is a crapshoot. A 5 year is a crapshoot. Let's try to keep it as objective as possible. Even 3 years is hard to assess. So 3 years is a good model. Anything other than three is really just a guessing game, and we're throwing numbers at the wall and hoping it sticks. So on the introduction page here, or the introduction tab for the spreadsheet, it shows the instructions for the spreadsheet. So really, we're going to focus on these three colored, or these two different colored cells. If the cell is colored in brown, it's going to be a cell where we type in a financial number. Whether we lose money or gaining money, but what are we spending or earning is going to go into these brown cells. The teal cells is going to be numbers that we can adjust, like any notes we want to drop in, or variable rates or interest rates. But we're going to really focus on filling in the most of the brown sections. So let's go over to the required startup funds, which is the next tab over, or tab number 1. In the top left-hand corner, you're going to see required startup funds. And just real quick, in the chat, give me it. So right now, I'm zoomed in at 100% on my tab. I just want to verify everyone can read what's on the screen. So in the chat, go ahead and type the number 2 into the chat if this is legible and you could read this, or 3 if you want me to zoom in. 2 if it's good, 3 to zoom in. 2 if it's good, 3 to zoom in. I'm just going to scroll down, make sure everyone's okay. We got 1, 3 coming. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and then just let me know if that's a little better. If you need me to zoom in some further, I'm more than happy to go in a little further, and I'll just move the screen around and scroll up and down. Okay, awesome. If anybody needs me to zoom in any further, please let me know. More than happy to assist. So in our required startup funds tab, we've got our startup costs, our operating capital, total startup costs, and then our sources of funding. Where are we getting access to capital? In the brown sections, we're going to type in what we are going to spend or need. And then in the teal sections, we have the depreciation schedule and any notes. So before we go any further, what we're going to do here is we're going to build out a business. The business we're going to build might be a combination of the businesses that are here in the chat. So if let's say one person in the chat today is a consultant and one person has a food service business, it would be unfair to just focus on one or the other. So we're going to combine all the businesses that are here today into this financial model. It'll be a little mess. The financials may look a little weird because you might have different products and services, but we're going to try to use everyone's businesses here, so you have a little bit of buy-in to this spreadsheet and what we're putting on paper together. So in the chat, go ahead and drop in what is your business or your product or service. Either is just fine. And then what you want to get out of today. If I wasn't planning on discussing it and I can discuss it, I'm more than happy to bring it up and share that topic with you. So in the chat, drop in what is your business or your product or service and what you want to get out of today. And then as they come in, I'm going to make a note on my notepad here of what businesses we have, so that way I can keep track and come back to them and revisit. So we got one service-based, home-based travel. You're all going to test how fast I can do shorthand, aren't you? All right, let's see. We've got community engagement app. So we're going to go app, community engagement. Bakery, okay. Sam, welcome back. I don't envy your business when it comes to finances. There's an old adage in business that if you want to be a millionaire, first be a billionaire, then open a food service business. A lot of cost of goods, a lot of variables involved. I might not be jealous, but I'm cheering you on. Thomas, we've got career success platform, good financial modeling foundation. Okay, so it sounds like counseling or consulting. Is that right, Thomas? I'm going to put counseling. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Primary training workshops. Okay. Her Power Project, nonprofit. So we're going to put nonprofit, NFP. CPG from William, consumer packaged goods. William, if you want to share a little more about what kind of product it is, you don't have to give us a secret sauce, but if you can tell us what the product might be or the category, that might help me put some items on here that might be helpful for you. From Denise, hair design by Denise. Don't judge my hair. I need a haircut. Let's see. Denise is going to be hair. Postpartum retreat. Scrolling down. Let's see. Vintage clothing. Okay. All right. I'm reading, also reading through what we want to get out of today as well. And let's see. Vegan health and coaching. Consulting, mobile wellness retreat. That's 2 times 2 for retreats. Laughing is conceivable. Humor heals. Coping workshop. A lot of workshops. I like it. All right, and then a new type of social media app that blends creativity with connection, hoping to get better handle on how to bootstrap, limit non-dilutive funding. Okay, that's those are good, valid concerns. All right, so we're going to put 2 for app, and then wellness solutions, counseling, trainings. Okay, a lot of training. Okay, awesome. And let's keep diving in. So in the startup expenses, we have our fixed assets of things that in the startup expenses, these are things that we're going to have to spend money on in order to open our door. So what do we have to buy, spend, use, get access to in order to start operations? So we might have this vision of what our business is going to look like in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. We're going to have all these employees. We're going to have 6 different locations. These are good goals, but I want to be cautious about what we do today. So before we start putting money on paper, I want you to have a minimally viable product, or MVP. What is the least amount you have to do today to get access to revenue? So say that again. What is the least amount you have to do today to get access to revenue and then turn that revenue into profit? When you pitch to judges, investors, or lenders, the primary reason why someone might not be interested in offering you that investment, that loan, or even that grant for that pitch competition is because the finances might not align, or they might not look like the business is going to survive. Why would a granting organization or a grantor give this contribution to a business if they don't think the money is going to go to a good cause or actually make an impact because the money is going to be mismanaged in the next 3, 6, 9, or 12 months? So it's important to have good, solid financials, understanding what we're spending, what we're bringing in, and what we are saving. All right, saving is going to be key. So fixed assets, so land. I don't think there's anybody here who has to buy any land. I'm not sure if Sam's going to own the land where the bakery is located or rent, unless that changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do buildings. So maybe our lease is going to be $4,000 per month, but we have to pay the first and last. So we're going to pay $8,000 for access to our lease. We have to build out the building, so it's going to cost maybe let's say it's going to just to build out the walls. It's going to and the paint. We're going to say 2,500. Now I'm going to put random numbers in here that I think are somewhat acceptable. But what I want you to do is conduct research, get receipts, get quotes, and understand exactly every penny that's going into this business. Most businesses, when they're projecting out what they're going to spend, usually short it. I don't want you to short. I would rather you have a more liberal projection of what you're going to spend, so that way you have extra cash on hand in order to use that money if you think you're going to run out. Now, improvements can be, sheetrock, drywall, painting, then equipment. So there's a lot of trainers in here. So we have to have maybe a projector. Our projector might cost, in the notes section here, we're going to put projector, and that's going to be maybe $500. Then we have tables for our training room, and that's going to be maybe $4,000. And then we're going to have the chairs, which is another $1,500. And then we're going to have a hospitality area with some coffee and maybe a refrigerator or a small beverage fridge. So we'll call this another $800. So all in, that looks like 55, $6,800. If I didn't do that math correctly, please tell me. So right now, just with getting access to the building, improving the building for what our build out looks like, and then our equipment is going to be $6,800. So the total is going to be 17,300. All right. If there's only one thing that you get from me today, one thing only, when you talk to your pitch judges, your investor, or your lender, it's important to talk finance or finance as you know it. That you understand finance or accounting as if you manage it every day. So key takeaway number one is yes, we often say finance, but the correct pronunciation is finance. So if you say finance over finance, you might think you're sounding pretentious, but when you're talking to someone who works in accounting and finance, they will respect that. Number two is how to say dollars and cents. So in common spoken language, we might say 17,320 $300.25. The correct phrase to read those numbers would be $17,300. The and goes between the dollars, then the cents. So it would be 17,325 cents rather than $17,325.25. So the correct way to pronounce dollars and cents in the accounting and finance industries is $17,300. If there's cents, we have the cents go afterward. So by phrasing the way that you speak the language of finance and accounting is likely to get you a buy-in from any judges, lenders, or investors. Furniture and fixtures, we could put the tables and the chairs down here in furniture and fixtures. So keep in mind, if you want to put it up here in equipment, that is just fine. Just leave a note here so you understand what is appropriate, and then make sure your depreciation schedule is right as well. So how long are these tables and chairs likely to last for? Will they last for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years? If the projector and the tables have a different depreciation schedule, meaning you're going to have to replace it in a different amount of time, then put it on two different lines. But if you believe that the projector, the tables, and the chairs and the hospitality area would all depreciate over 7 years when you would replace it, then you can keep it on the same line and just put your notes section here. That is just fine. When it comes to GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, there's certain rules about what purchases or expenses can be put on what line items. What can be furniture, what can be equipment, what can be startup, what can be food and beverage, what can be hospitality. Most of it doesn't have hard rules. It's fairly interchangeable. So work with your bookkeeper or your accountant to understand where you want to put it and where it's easy for you to understand. However, key note here, if you want to sell your business, so let's say you're in session number one, we talked about exit strategies. So if your goal is to sell your business, whether selling it in 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years from now, it's important for your finances to align with the industry standard. So let's pick on, I'm going to scroll up and randomly pick a person here. I'm going to pick on Riley Ann, the vintage clothing business. So let's say Riley Ann's goal is to sell this clothing business in 5 years. Then it's important for Riley Ann to know how is the industry of vintage clothing or fashion, where do they place some of their line items on their books? So would equipment also include tables and chairs, or would they be located on a different line item of furniture and fixtures? And the reason why that's important is because when you have a potential buyer and they're looking over your finances, right? Because remember, they're not the product is the business, not the actual vintage clothing that we're selling, or the postpartum retreat, or the raw food consulting or coaching. It's going to be what the business is, the product. When that's in the eyes of the lender, the investor, and the pitch. So as you get ready to sell, if your finances do not match the industry standard, you might have different margins and different ratios. So you might spend a different amount of money on furniture and expenses than your competing businesses, and that can change the valuation of your business. I want you to, when you sell your business, to get the top dollar for it. And oftentimes, it's not so much how many customers you have and how many products do you sell that impact the sale price. It's usually the behind the scenes. How are the finances structured and what are the processes? So in session number one, we talked about that phase of process hell. So building those processes, if something was to happen to you, the owner, the founder, the chief everything officer, what happens to that business? Does it survive tomorrow? If you take a 2-week vacation, How is the business making revenue and profit? If you were to be hospitalized or incapacitated for 2 weeks, how is the business earning revenue and turning that into profit? These are things that we look for on the back end of those processes and those finances. So if there's only two things you get from me today, I'm making notes, I remember where I'm at. So there's only two things you get from me today: processes and finances. How are we labeling the back end of our business? And this comes into what we talked about on session one, our sustainable competitive advantage. And that is what happens on the back end of the business that the customers don't see that makes our business successful and continue to run on its own. All right, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. So the operating capital is showing here on the screen. So in order to open the door, these are fixed assets. Fixed is typically going to be a one-time purchase. It's not a variable or recurring expense. The operating capital is what are we going to need to get the business started, but is also going to recur at a later date. And we'll talk about recurring expenses on tab number 3, fixed operating expenses. So before we open our door, uh, advertising and promotion. How much are we going to spend on marketing, advertising, and promotion before we actually open the door to the public? So that could be a whole lot of different options. So let's say there is a non-for-profit in the group here. So let's say we have to market to get access to donations. We expect we're going to spend $450 before we open our doors on marketing and promotion. Our beginning inventory. So Sam with the bakery. So Sam has to buy flour, baking soda, salt, sugar, and the list goes on. These items add up. So let's say that Sam needs to purchase about $500 worth of sugar, another $400 worth of flour, $100 worth of salt. We're going to go with also, there's going to be maybe some filtered water, and then the water is going to cost, we'll say, $20. So altogether, we have 500, 900, 1,000, $1,020 on just beginning inventory. Now, there's someone in here, I think it was, I'm going to forget the name, but somebody has a consumer packaged good. And so what would your beginning inventory look like in terms of how much is it going to cost to get access to the inventory, the and then where is it going to be housed? So once you have that opening inventory, where is it going to be housed? Is it housed in your third bedroom? Is it housed at a brick and mortar location? Or is it housed at a third party fulfillment center? Either is just fine. I'm going to go back up, and I forgot a key point here I want everybody to know. When you're negotiating for your leases, it's important to negotiate for at least one free month for build out. Most property owners would allow at least one free month for build out. So let's say your lease date, you sign the lease and your first day of access to the building is March 1st. But you have to do build out and get the building ready. So you're not going to be ready to open for operations until April 15th. So that's 45 days of burn. And you need an additional 45 days of runway of burn. You're burning money over time just before you actually can raise money and or get revenue and turn that revenue into profit. So you can ask for 1 or 2 months or 3 months of build out that is not paid for into your lease. I would say ask for 3. If you get 3, awesome. If you get 2, amazing. If you get 1, outstanding, right? We ask for the world, and the worst thing they'll say is no. So let's go back down to operating capital. Then we have legal and professional fees. This is going to be our accountants, our bookkeeper. This is going to be attorney's fees. This can also be filing for our LLC or S Corp. That can also be located down here in licenses as well. So let's say we need to consult with an attorney. So we're going to have a $400 attorney fee. We'll put here, we're going to put $400 ATTY. You know what that means. That's attorney. You can abbreviate here if you want to. As long as you understand what this looks like, it's good for you. Then we're going to have another $300 fee for our bookkeeper, BK for bookkeeping, and then another $200 fee for our CPA. These are all initial consults to get some things started. So 400 plus 300 is 7, plus 2 is going to be $900. If I'm going too fast with numbers at any time, please tell me to slow down. I will gladly slow down if anybody needs me to slow down so they can catch up. There is no judgment if you're not a fan of math. And so what's really important for me here is that Everyone has a desire to want to look at their accounting software or their spreadsheets or their P&Ls, their cash flow statements, because most entrepreneurs go awry is they don't look at their finances. They just manage the business, and then they look at their finances once a quarter when they meet with their bookkeeper or meet with their accountant. They don't realize how, not so well the books were going, and they might be, short their projections. They need to find some capital now. A business is cash in, cash out, cash is queen. And then getting access to capital in the future is also dependent upon how well you manage your finances today. So, just real quick, I just want to poll the audience. So, in the chat, we're going to go ABC. A, if you're here for an investor, right? If you're here to learn about investors or to build these for investors. B, it's going to be for debt or lenders. You're looking for a loan. And then C for the pitch competition. And you could put D for other, just in case it's something else as well. So A for investors, B for debt, C for pitch, and D for others. Because if there's nobody here for like a loan, I don't need to discuss it then. We'll just pass up on it. But if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. So we got pitching and other. Okay, awesome. And if there's something that I'm not tracking and you want to know about it, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to discuss. A lot of C's, a lot of pitch competition. All right, so look around you. So as you look into the chat and you see how many C's are in the group chat, that's all your competition for that access to that grant and that pitch competition. So your competitors are side by side, but I don't want you to have like this, cutthroat competition. I also want you to look at to your left and to your right that those in this chat room today are also your peers. As you build your business, it can get very lonely at the top. You might have very limited people to bounce ideas off of, to communicate with. Sometimes it's difficult to talk to your employees because they're not in the business as you are. So this is where you build those connections, those friendships, and this is maybe where you build that board of advisors that we talked about during session number one. So licenses. So let's say you file for an LLC. The initial fee is $125 with the state of North Carolina. So we're going to put NCSOS for North Carolina Secretary of State. That's our filing fee. Pre-opening salaries and wages. What do we have to pay people in order to open the door? Right? We can put this here, or we can put it into the tab number 2, salaries and wages. I prefer to be in tab number 2, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. Prepaid insurance premiums. Insurance is important. Everyone here might have a different insurance policy for their business. If you're a consultant or trainer or you have a retreat, you might have errors and omissions or E&O insurance. If everyone here might have access to a BOP policy or business owner's policy, general liability. So let's go ahead and we're going to put down $300 for our BOP policy, and we're going to put 400 for our E&O policy, errors and omissions insurance. Total, our prepaid is going to be $700. Other insurances to consider are going to be workers' compensation if you're going to have employees that are working in your business. And then unemployment insurance, which gets paid through the payroll processor, but that counts as well. That'll be on tab 2, salaries and wages. Rent deposits, we already talked about rent-ready supplies. So supplies might be, so if we're going to talk about like say Sam and the bakery, this could be one-time purchases that are not ingredients or raw materials. So Sam's ingredients might be sugar, flour, water, but the supplies might be baking pans, items to put in the oven, kitchen gadgets or equipment that you would use recurring over and over again. And so let's pick on a different business. We're going to go with home-based travel. Someone's got a home-based travel business. So supplies might be staplers and staples. So we're going to put miscellaneous office supplies. And we're going to put that as $150 to get started. That could be paper clips, staples, pens, paper, whatever you think is appropriate. From Lauren, so if you're filling this out for the month, not for the year, that's a great question, Lauren. This is going to be, so we're not in month or year yet. This is just going to be what are we going to spend before we open the door? And that is it. I apologize for the noise in the background. I'm working from home, and that was my dryer letting me know that my clothes are done. So in here, this is just what we're spending before we open the doors for business. So let's say today is February 11th. we get access to our first excuse me, we get access to the lease or the building on March 1st, and we start opening our business for sales on April 1st. So this could be everything you have to spend between now and April 1st. These are usually going to be one-time expenses that you're not going to spend ever again. Now, with the exception of the building expenses, yes, you paid the first and last month's rent. So the first month is going to be your deposit, and the last month of May, or vice versa. But we're going to put into the a different tab, like number 3, your actual leaseholder expenses as well. Lauren, let me know if I answered your question, because if you have that question, then other people might have that as well. So just recap, everything on tab number 1 is going to be items that we're spending just before we open the door, and these are typically going to be a one-time expense. We're going to come down to working capital, cash on hand. Remember, cash is going to be queen. Your business will be judged based upon how much cash you have on hand. Now, as your business grows, it is important to save money. 2 rules here. All right, if there's only 3 things you get from me today, number 3, for when you have profit, it is important to save some of that profit as cash on hand into a savings account that becomes operating capital or free cash flow. But you're going to need that money for a rainy day. Every business here, you will have a bad week, a bad month, a bad quarter, or maybe even a bad year. It's important to have access to capital. When you need access to capital and you don't have it, it is difficult to get it when you don't have it, but it's easy to get access to capital when you have it. So if there's only 4 things you get from me today, when your bank offers you a line of credit, take it. When your bank offers you a increase on that line of credit, take it. If a bank doesn't offer you a line of credit, apply for it. If they don't offer you an increase, apply for it. And that should be something that you do quarterly. I would recommend quarterly. Put it on your calendar today that every quarter you're going to ask for a line of credit or an increase in your line of credit. There will be a time when you had a bad quarter or a bad week and you have to run payroll, and now you do not have money to run payroll. So you can go and apply for a loan. It might take you a month, but you have no money. So the bank's going to see you as a liability. But if you have a line of credits, you can use that line of credit to pay payroll. Now, when you're looking for additional capital in the future, like loans or lines of credit, or to buy assets, banks typically want you to use, I say lenders or financial institutions, want you to use the line of credit for really 2 things. They want you to use line of credit for payroll, and they want you to use it for supplies. Typically, that is what most lending institutions want you to use that line of credit for, is going to be payroll and supplies. Some might be a little different, but most lean that direction. So be cautious on what you're using that line of credit for, but it's mostly there for a rainy day. It is easier to get access to that capital when you don't need it than when you do need it. And then with that, number 5, there's only 5 things you get from me today. Every business here should be banking with multiple banking institutions. So maybe you're a fan of Wells Fargo or you're a fan of a certain credit union. That's fine. You can bank there. Open up another bank account as well somewhere else. Have multiple bank accounts at different institutions. And you don't have to tell. I would actually recommend you don't tell your bank how many banks you're working with unless they ask for financial statements because you're applying for a loan, because that bank wants you to be primarily working with them. They make money on the money that you deposit, right? So, but the reason why it's important to have multiple accounts and multiple banks is because let's say you've been operating for several years. We're gonna pick on Denise right now. So Denise has been, absolutely cutting and styling and coloring hair for the last decade. Denise has been making 7 figures a year. She saves a lot of that money. But you know what? Denise needs a loan to expand and open up some new locations for hair services. So Denise walks into a bank that is the next town over, has never done business with them, and Denise shows the bank her P&Ls, cash flow statements, the balance sheets, and says, "This is how much I have cash on hand. This is how much we earn. I'm looking for a loan of this much." That bank is likely to say, "Well, Denise, you really don't have enough history." "What are you talking about? I've got 10 years of profitable business." "Oh, I'm sorry, Denise. You don't have enough history with us. So the banks want you to have history with them before they lend to you. Because if you haven't been banking with them, they are likely to view you as a risk. Now, that's not the case for every business, but that is for many. So it's important to have access to multiple different banks. And so let's go back 6 years ago. 2020, 2021, heart of the pandemic. I see the question in the chat. I'm going to come to that in one moment. So let's go back to the heart of the pandemic when businesses were getting access to the payroll protection program or PPP loans. Pretty much free money from the government. But in order to get access to that money to pay your payroll, you had to go through the bank, your bank. You had to go through your bank that you've been working with and apply through the bank. So if you don't have an account with that bank, then you don't get access to it. But also, if you don't have a relationship with that banker, you don't get access to it. You go to the back of the line. So it's important to have not only different accounts at different banks so you can weigh your options and diversify your assets, but then also have a relationship with that banker. And therefore, when you need access to that loan or that PPP, whatever it might be, you have a relationship and you typically go to the front of the line. And in session number one, we talked about the BAIL team, BAIL, which is an acronym for banker, accountant, insurance, and legal. It is important to have a relationship with each of these individuals or organizations. A few questions in the chat. I'm going to go read through these. Banks want us to use our savings account for payroll. And what is the other one? Oh, so let me clarify. You don't have to use your savings for payroll. You can use a checking account for payroll. Typically, your payroll processing software will be integrated with one of your accounts, whichever one that you choose. I would recommend you only keep enough money in your checking account to cover your expenses, and then anything extra goes into savings accounts so that way you earn more interest on it and it stays more protected rather than being tied to a check or a debit card where it's at risk of being lost. But I think you're asking the question about the line of credit. So most banks prefer that businesses use their line of credit for payroll and supplies, and only those two things. Another question, this one's from Leslie. Excuse me. Would different accounts be for different purposes, like one main for payroll, one main for rent, utilities, etc., and one main? Yeah, absolutely. If that's the way that you prefer to manage your finances, if that helps, if having an account or like having 10 different savings accounts and one's for rent, one's for supplies, and you move money back and forth because it helps you manage your money and allows you to stay organized, do it. Go for it. At the end of the day, that money's still going to show on your cash flow statement. It's still going to show on your balance sheet. So it's still important that it's there. But if that helps you manage your money, go for it. It's no different than like when you're a teenager and you have like 5 different envelopes in your bedroom, and one envelope is for like eating out with your friends, one's for vacation, and you just put money into those envelopes. That's just fine. There's actually a really good book. So I'll recommend this book. It's called Profit First. I'm going to drop it in. I get nothing for recommending this book. I know a lot of entrepreneurs really enjoy it. I actually put the wrong name in here, Profit First. I don't recall the author's name, but a lot of entrepreneurs love the book, and it talks about having different accounts for different items like taxes and your expenses. That way you can manage it a little easier. So quick side note there, if there's only 6 things you get from me today, number 6 is going to be managing your tax liability. So a lot of banks will view IRS debt as mismanaging the business. So I'll say that again. A lot of banks will view IRS debt as mismanaging the business. So with that being said, I want you to be proactive with your tax accountant or tax attorney, whoever's doing your taxes for you. Most CPAs are uh, focus on compliance more so than saving you money. So I'll say that again. Most CPAs focus on compliance rather than saving you money. So there's many CPAs that will say, "Hey, Amy, you owe this money." What do you mean I owe this? I wanted to save money. Oh, you didn't communicate that to me. CPAs are focusing mostly on compliance, but if you can find the CPA that understands compliance as well as being proactive to save you money, that's important. Tell your CPA what your goals are, and they will assist you with your goals more so than just compliance. Um, so it's important. I can't say every business, that's a stretch, but most businesses will one day not pay their taxes quarterly, and they'll wind up having a tax bill at the end of the year. It happens often. It's very common. Try to minimize how much IRS debt you have, though. And the IRS is easy to work with if you have debt. Maybe you already have No judgment, but just some banks will view it as mismanaging your finances. Good questions in the chat. And Amy, thanks for sharing the link to Profit First. There are some things in the book that I agree with, there's some things that I don't. But if you want to read it, feel free to extract the takeaways that you feel are important for you. And with that being said, so I think it was Leslie who asked a question about different accounts and different savings accounts. If there's a way that helps you manage your finances and be involved in your finances, which is so important, if there's a method that you have that helps you manage your finances, if it's legal and it's morally acceptable, go for it. No one stops you, right? It's just as long as you still have your P&L, your cash flow, and your balance sheet. So we're going to look at here. We have now row 24 is our working capital. It's our cash on hand. This is how much money are we going to be outside of these expenses? How much are we going to have left? So as of right now, we're going to be spending $20,645 just to get the business launched. Ooh, I am sweating, right? Like Sam is like, that's a lot of money in sugar. Maybe I don't need $500 in sugar. Maybe I just need $350 and I'll get by. So when you see this this large fee here of total startup, my challenge to you is to tell yourself, how can I reduce this to be as small as possible? All right. If you can get it from 20,645 to 20,145, awesome. High five. We focus on that minimally viable product. What is the least amount we have to do today in order to generate revenue? So you might look at your build out and say, well, we're going to spend 4,000 on tables. Maybe we can spend a little less, find them somewhere else, or get a different table, spend 3,000. So just for the sake of practicing, we're going to reduce our table debt or table expense from 4,000 to 3,000. We're going to cut $1,000 off of here. So now our total equipment expense is $5,800, and it reduces our total amount that we're going to start up to $19,645. But it's important for you to have cash on hand. Leslie, I see your question and going to come right to that in a moment. So cash on hand. How much money are we going to have on hand in our account to use outside or beyond this $19,645? So let's say the total amount of money we have to open the business is $40,000. So $40,000 minus 19,645 is going to be 2355. Is that right? You can check my math. So yep, that's right. So $20,355 is what's remaining of the total $4,000 that we're putting into the business. And I'm going to pause here, look at Leslie's question. How do I feel about online only banks? They're just fine. There are banks that have brick and mortars that I'm like, I'm not sure about them. And there's banks that are online that I'm like, I'm not sure about. Go with a bank that you trust. Go with a bank that is reputable. But it's important as you're selecting banks, this is where I want you to read the fine print, because banks offer products. They might have 5 or 6 different savings accounts for businesses, or 6 or 7 different checking accounts for businesses, but there's different fees and rates for each of those based upon the total number of transactions you have, the average dollar amount, the average daily balance, the average monthly balance. How many transactions do you expect? So like, for example, Sam might have, 85 transactions a day because customers are coming to the bakery and buying items, but someone who is a trainer or a consultant might have 5 transactions a month. So those impact your fees as well. Read the fine print to know how much it costs to have transactions, how many transactions you're allowed, and what your fees might be, because I want you to spend as little as possible while making as much money as possible. Leslie, let me know if I answered your question. And then down below here in rows 33 through 40, they have the owner's cash injection, or the access to capital. So I want you to note here, just a quick housekeeping note. For the cash that you're going to inject, you can put the 20,355 here, or you can put it here as well. Either is just fine. So we're going to put 0 here. We're going to leave it up here, or you can reverse it. Either is just fine. The math will check out the same. We're going to receive $0 from outside investors, or if you're doing these sessions for the pitch competition, if the pitch amount, I think the grant is $30,000. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say you have $30,000. You can show, You can show the pitch judges what are you going to do with that money when you have access to it. That is key, because just changing the world or making an impact on other people is great, but what would you actually do with that money? Um, so Lauren, let me know what you're referring to. Oh, the grant money. Okay, so we're going to put 7,500. I appreciate the heads up.
I'll drop those specific amounts in the chat if you want, Michael. Mike.
Yeah, please do if you can. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so then we have additional capital here. So according to these finances so far, it's projecting that we're going to need a $25,000 loan because we're going to have other expenses. We have our mortgage or our lease. We're going to put zero here because we're going to actually just lease the building, and we're going to do this without a loan. So we'll come back to this a little if we have to. And the total sources of funding is going to be $7,500 or $7,500. Now, that's what we have here for the startup expenses. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see the entire page or close to the entire page. And I'll zoom back in. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to tab number 2, salaries and wages. So in salaries and wages, I'm going to zoom out to show you the screen, and I'll zoom back in again. So let's zoom out to here. And so we see in columns A through E, we have owners and employees, owners compensation, salary, salary 1, salary 2, salary 3, salary 4. This is if we're paying one person $60,000, another person $80,000, and another person $90,000. So you list how many people are being paid at that schedule. Wages, these are going to be for your hourly rates, rate per hour, hours per month they're working, and any overtime hours, and then different rates of wages. Total number of employees that are being paid, independent contractors, your 1099s, and of course going to be your payroll taxes. So key thing to note here in row 43, just give you a quick heads up, I'm going to zoom in, is in row 43, it does say Alaska on here because this did come from the Alaska SBDC. Feel free to change your workers' comp to North Carolina. The current rate for North Carolina would be on the Department of Labor website for North Carolina. That's where you can get access to your rate. Leslie, I'm not sure what you're asking about. Your commission on the, I assume you're asking about where to put commission on here. Is that right? I would put commission as potentially part of as COGS or cost of goods sold, rather than on here and your projections. Now, when you run your payroll through your payroll processor, it will come from your bank account, right? So it's going to show on your pay stubs and your 941s at the end of the year, your tax forms that commission was paid. But for projecting and planning purposes, I would put it into your COGS, your cost of goods sold, and we'll come to that, I think, in tab 4. Leslie, let me know if I answered your question. So then we have over here, starting in column I through T, we see it says month 1 all the way through month 12. Now, the reason why it says month 1 through month 12 and not January through December is because this should align with your fiscal year. So the calendar year is going to be January through December, but your fiscal year, so let's say you're starting your business March 1. Your fiscal year might start March, and then it might go to April, and then May, and then continue on all the way through February. All right, we won't type it all in. For now, this is save time, but you can type those in and change those. So now we're showing that month 1 is going to be March, month 2 is going to be April, May, etc. And then also high five. Thanks for Lori for sharing the grant amounts into the chat. Any access to capital is good access to capital. If you can get it, spend it, grow that business. Very difficult to say no to nearly free money. And I say nearly free because you have to spend time in one of these sessions and then do some work to put together your pitch, et cetera, practice, rehearse, and then get access to the capital. All right, time is money. So let's look at owner compensation if you have one owner. Now, if there's only 7 things that you get from me, number 7 is going to be pay yourself, pay yourself, pay yourself. If you were to, I can't tell you what the judges might think about this, but an investor would be very hesitant about contributing an investment into your business if you weren't paying yourself. Now, you don't have to pay yourself enough to afford, a home on the beach with 5 boats, but enough to at least support your lifestyle feed your family, put a roof over your head. Because if you don't pay yourself, your quality of life decreases, and then of course the business would suffer as well. Um, Lenders might think a little differently. Lenders might be okay with you saying, I'll pay myself in the future. Lenders care about getting their money paid back, while investors care about making money on what you have to offer. So again, investors care about risk and getting paid back. Investors care about making money on your business in 5 to 7 years. And then, so the pitch judges might view this a little differently, but it's important to pay yourself. So let's say you're going to pay yourself, let's say $4,000 per month. You have one owner, 4,000 per month, and it's gonna instantly populate throughout the remainder of the year. So your annual salary is $48,000, and then year two for inflation, 49,440, and then 50,923. So let's say you have an additional employee. So you have employee number one that is salaried, and their salary is going to be $3,000 per. Oops, that's I shorted that by a zero. 3,000 per month. It's going to populate each month. Now we're at $36,000 for year one for their salary, and then we have salary number two. We have one person earning a salary of $2,500 a month, and then they're going to earn $30,000 per year. Let's scroll back left. We have one part-time employee who works at, we'll say, $15 per hour. They're going to work, let's say, 60 hours per month, and they get zero overtime. So they're going to get paid approximately $10,800 for the first year. And we don't have any other wages we're going to offer now. We have one contractor that comes in once a month, and we're going to pay them, say, um, $300 per month for services, total of $3,600 per year. And then I'm going to zoom out real quick. That's maybe too far out. And we see so far our beginning payroll for year one is $144,749. But then we also have a look at, you remember your payroll taxes, your FICA, your withholding, Social Security. These are listed here as well. And you can update these rates as possible. So let's say the North Carolina rate, I'm going to paraphrase, I don't recall the exact rate for new businesses for North Carolina. So let's put North Carolina in here. But it might be something similar to, we're going to leave that blank for now. We're not going to mess up the formula. But if you want to change the formula, you certainly can. Actually, we're just going to put 3.66% in there, and that changes. So that might be something close to what North Carolina has for new businesses that are low risk, like non-construction. And then so it changes our projection. Our year one payroll is $145,884. So far we're like, wow, in year one, we're going to pay $145,000 in payroll. We have $40,000 in startup expenses. What haven't we talked about? We haven't talked about even making money. We're just spending money, and the hives are breaking out. So if you go back and say, well, that's a lot of money, I'm not sure I can afford that. Maybe I negotiate with the contractor and change the contractor rate to $275 per month. And now I cut down just a little bit on that year. And now we're just cut down about $300 on expenses for the first year. Every dollar counts. So if you can go through your books and you can cut a dollar here, cut a dollar there, add a dollar here, that's called cost accounting. We want to identify what everything costs in our business. If I was a pitch judge, now I might be a little more challenged. I don't know who your pitch judges are, but if I was your pitch judge and you told me that you were spending, $8,000 a year on hair products, and then I would ask you, break down that 8,000, how much is shampoo, how much is conditioner, how much is coloring? And if you couldn't tell me that, I would be somewhat concerned, because you shouldn't know how much each item costs in your business. So be prepared to answer those hard questions about where the money is going, how much you earn, where it's coming from, and then where it's being spent. So let's look at tab number 3, which is fixed operating expenses. Actually, let's pause here. It is 1:04 p.m. We're halfway through the 2 hours that you're stuck with me. Let's take a quick 5-minute bio break. So it's 1:04. I'll turn my camera off and mute myself, and we'll meet back here at 1:09.